Hi, I'm going to be discussing the metagame that's currently being seen in the Scrolls Alpha. We've got top players like Blinky and Tinfox and Daendils, who are all playing probably the most powerful decks in the game, and thanks to their influence in YouTube videos, they're going to become the most popular for everyone in Scrolls until we get new stuff and people work out new strategies. Currently the main powerful decks people are playing with are the Growth and Order decks, and main reason for this is because Growth is the most powerful Scrolls currently available in the game. It's got Quake, which just flattens everything. It has God Hand, which makes all your creatures gain 3/3 and then swing, which is a game-winning scroll, because the moment someone lets down their guard after an attack, or the moment you've attacked, you can just attack again, but with an extra bonus. It's fairly powerful, especially when combined with Crimson Bull, which gives it an extra 2/2 to the attack, which is very powerful. Everything gets +5 and then swings, and the reason that the Order is in there is pretty much entirely for the Heritage Fertile Soil combo, where someone will play a Memorial down, put Heritage on that Memorial, and then sacrifice it using Fertile Growth, which gets them 5 scrolls straight into their hand, which is incredibly useful, it seems. I mean, that happens twice, and you've got like a third of your entire library just in your hand. You can just do whatever you need to. If you need to Quake, you can Quake, you have that option. If you need to God Hand, you can God Hand. It just gives so many options, it's like having the entire deck there, so why wouldn't you do it? Thanks to this, those are mainly the core of all the Growth Order decks. The surroundings tend to be Growth orientated because they're just more powerful, but you can do anything with that setup. You could go all bunnies. The other main deck being played is Growth, because the same reasons why it's being played in the metagame. Things I didn't mention with the Growth Order deck, though, is cards like Great Wolf, which gets buffed for every single wolf, and is relentless. It just doesn't stop. It gets to a 10/10 pretty quick, especially with Crimson Bull and Champion Ring. Smashes through things and just gets straight to the idol. Can clear an entire row instantly. Also has the Kinfolk Brave and Kinfolk Veteran. Those two cards, I mean, one swings every single turn consistently, and can be easily buffed with a Champion Ring. The other is the Veteran, who, he enters play, he swings for 3. He just splatters things. If there's a card that needs to be dealt with, and it's got an open front, throw him down, he deals with it. And so the Growth and the Growth Order are the main decks being played. They're the ones you'll probably most commonly see in the higher tier of decks. We've discussed the main benefits currently in Growth, because they're really high up in the popularity. In Order, we've only really mentioned Heritage. As far as Order decks go, there's the Faith series that makes up the majority of the reason why people would play them. The Blessing, Faith's Blessing, which will sacrifice a unit, could be a Memorial, which is really cheap, just throw it down, it has 1 health, sacrifice it, gain 4 life on an idol. That's pretty powerful. It also has the Faith Chains, put it on a Memorial, kabonk the Memorial, and then 1 damage to every single one of your opponent's idols. Just weakens that defense. And the Decimation card. That's a good card because it just does flat out 2 damage to an idol, and weakens everything in the row that idol's on by 1. If there's some pesky, like, Memorials in your way, for a charge with something without Relentless, you can blip with the Decimation, and it is gone. You have an open line, and it's a pretty powerful card when used in the right situation, and that is incredibly specific. There aren't that many opportunities to throw down with that card, but there are some. With Energy, it's not really being played that much. There are a few Energy decks, but not too many. I'm certainly seeing less of them than I am Order, and certainly less than Growth. But the main cards at the moment in energy decks are Thunder Surge, which is just great against a lot of weaker decks, because if it's a fast deck that uses lots of small creatures, they tend to buff the attack but not the health. Thunder Surge, hit one of those creatures, all adjacent units take 2 damage, and it can wipe a board. Especially in a bunnies deck, then it's going to be a horrible, horrible bunny genocide. The other side of energy decks is the structures side, because there's the Machine Priest. He repairs structures every single turn, and a lot of the structures have beefy health points. They hit pretty hard, they hit pretty frequently. That is to compensate for the fact that they can't hit idols. You're going to need to back up those structures with something like the other main card currently coming from Growth Energy, which is the Iron Ogre. Iron Ogre is a relentless guy. He has like a trio of 7 health, 7 attack, 7 to summon. He's got a long countdown of 3, which can be sped up quite quickly with Fury. 2 Furies and he's hitting you next turn, and especially if you mix that with an order deck to give it speed. That guy comes out, speed, hits him, he swings for 7, flattens through a line. It's pretty horrific to see, unless it's being played against you. The decks I'd like to see, and are starting to come out from this, are decks like the Gravelock decks and the Bunnies decks. These are decks that are pretty good, but we're not seeing a lot of, just because they're kind of restricted in their power. This power restriction is usually compensated for by something like God Hand, or the charge from the Growth decks. I can't believe I've forgotten its name. I'm sure I've already said it twice. The Crimson Bull. I think that's what it's called. The Crimson Bull one that gives +2 attack. It just makes the bunnies, once they've populated up enough room, they will swing for a hefty number. And that's always a powerful combination to see. Lots of small things being made very powerful and swinging, but with bunnies they're not too great. They're too low on health and can be easily picked off. A lot of shrines doesn't help, because a Thunder Surge gets rid of the shrine and every single bunny close by. They can be sped up with the use of Honourable Generals to just give them that extra edge in the reproductive side of things, but it's not always what you want to see. The other deck type that I'd like to see is more work in the Gravelock decks. I mean, it's a really obvious synergy between Growth and Energy, but it hasn't been one that I've seen executed to as high a standard as the Growth Order decks. And this could just be down to the fact that currently there's not enough options for Energy to make it as good as Growth Order decks. That is a possibility. It could hopefully be fixed, but for now it's something I'm going to have to deal with and find a way around, and Growth decks are really dominating the field, and I don't see why adding Gravelocks to a Growth deck could make it incredibly powerful. It's just not a done thing. I personally would love a Gravelock deck. I've got all the Gravelock cards. It's the Growth cards that make it work that don't seem to be there for me. Like the Kinfolk Brave. I don't have enough of them to make a good swing at things. That's personally how I'm seeing the metagame from playing it in the alpha. I'm not doing very well. I'm mainly trying to stay away from Growth Order decks just because they're such a common deck. That's just my personal preference though. I think that hopefully with the introduction of Decay, we're going to see some good counters to a lot of creature-based decks, and a lot of counters hopefully given to the other decks for high spell decks, like with the Fertile Growth and Heritage, Fertile Soil and Heritage combination. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it was useful to you to find out how the metagame's shaping. Obviously people in the alpha will probably know how the metagame's shaping, but people outside of the alpha might not. I hope this can become a more regular thing, but Scrolls is really going to have to up the rate at which it adds more cards, and the hidden uses of a lot of cards. Something they haven't seemed to do much is have cards that, like, you think, I don't know why that card's at all any good, like Callback. It's good, it can get a card out of a fight, but you don't want to be having to summon it again next turn. Maybe we'll see something that makes Callback incredibly good, and then the metagame will have some big shifts. If that happens, I'll make this a weekly thing. If not, it probably won't happen for a good while. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.